All right, Ryan, thanks for joining us on Confessions of a Recruiter, the founder and director of Creative Natives.
12 years ago, I started at Michael Page doing software development. Prior to COVID, I started Creative Natives.
One of the topics that we want to talk about is employer value props and branding.
It just gives us that opportunity to stand out in a very cluttered crowd. We've always sort of looked at what impact can we have in the industry that we recruit outside of just filling jobs.
Just to give everybody context before we get into this podcast, which is all about candidate management, candidate control, and managing a candidate through the process, do you want to share a little bit about your journey and some personal achievements that you've got in recruitment?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me. In terms of my intro to recruitment, like a lot of British backpackers that choose Australia over going back to the UK, I got into recruitment, I think, 12 years ago. Started at Michael Page, had about a year and a half at Michael Page doing software development before moving to a boutique agency called Aquent. I was there for about 5.5 years, and just prior to COVID, I think about 6 months before COVID, I started Creative Natives. What was intention was a lifestyle business, has many iterations over the last 6 years, but we're now a team of 5 across Melbourne, Sydney, specialises in the creative, digital and marketing space.
Love that. Okay, so 6 years running your own business.
Yep.
What we're talking about today is, and the flavour of this season is candidate management, candidate attraction, this type of aspect on recruitment. Now, one of the topics that we want to talk about is employer value props and branding. So, what I think you do really well at, and what stands out to me about your business, your recruitment agency, is one, I love the name, Creative Natives. That's a really good name. And second, how you position yourself and how you kind of stand out over and above the typical recruitment agency brand. So I think if we just start there, I think that would be really nice to understand why you position your agency the way that you do and what benefits that has had for you in your last 6 years.
So I think one of the probably turning points or moments as the business where we were very young, we had next to no business because of COVID. We had no orders. And I remember being with a client, and the client explicitly said to me in the meeting that you work for us because we pay the invoice. And in that moment, I actually said, look, we don't actually work for you. We work for both. We work with the candidate and client 50-50. And we actually end up not getting that client. They ended up deciding not to work with us. But it was a moment in time where I think it was a realization that to be successful in this game, you do need to, I guess, sit right in the middle of both, because market conditions will always differ and go up and down. So one moment when you've got the control with the client or the control with the candidate, like that is always going to fluctuate. So you've got to kind of be true to yourself. And for us, it was always about being that middle ground between client and candidate. So that was kind of the why behind it. And I think what we've always done as a business has not been afraid to have an opinion on certain topics. I think that comes from, I guess, having genuine values and an interest in, you know, we talk internally about we want to be the company that changes the industry, and that, you know, for a lot of people would sound like a really lofty phrase, but we do see, particularly within the space that we recruit in, a lot of challenges that come, for example, return to work parents not getting an opportunity. And, you know, instead of just moaning about that, we actually took it upon ourselves to incentivize clients to hire return to work parents by offering them half the recruitment fee and extending the guarantee period. So we've always sort of looked at, you know, what impact can we have in the industry that we recruit outside of just filling jobs.
Wow, that's really interesting. And so what was the outcome of doing these half?
Yeah, so I mean, look, for us, it was, I think we just had so many frustrations of clients having the mindset that this person needs to be 5 days a week. And we have, I think, close to 3,000 people signed up to our part-time newsletter. And we have seen time and time again, companies that hire, return to work parents really benefit from, their head down, get the work done attitude. And even though they can't do 5 days a week, they often actually do the equivalent of 5 days a week work. So we saw that as a real opportunity to clients to tap into that market. And we just wanted to give them as much of an incentive to tap into this as possible. And, the half price placement was one of them. But we also wanted to eradicate any concern that they felt like there was a risky hire, because in our experience, these are probably the least risky hires you can make. So again, it was, sort of leading with example, putting our values first, and really going into bat for these people that are really struggling to find work at the moment.
Okay, no, that's really interesting. I've never seen anyone lean into return from work parents as much as you have before, but it does make a lot of sense. We employ a few return to work parents at Recruiter, and to be honest, they're like they do a cracking job. So, talk to me about like branding for your clients. One thing that you do really well that we had a conversation with yesterday actually was around like a branding video to attract candidates to the roles that you're recruiting. Can you just, walk us through what that is, how that works, why you do it?
Yeah. So I think it's probably fair to say that most businesses, whether they're an agency, an in-house team, most businesses are pretty bad at telling the why of why a candidate should join their place to work. So where we see our role with our clients is very much that PR to the candidate market. So what that means is, instead of taking a brief and turning that into a job advert on Seek or one of those boards, we will actually turn the brief into a video content. So that could be footage of their team. It could be the values, the work, all of the reasons we think that the company is a great place to work. And we package it up in a really cool piece of content, which goes for about 30 seconds, that's distributed across social media. And it just gives us that opportunity to stand out in a very cluttered crowd. And clients like it. It's a real, they can use that video again for themselves. So it's just a point of difference. And I think in recruitment, everyone is trying to do things slightly different and trying to have an impact. And the videos themselves, they act as a really great way of clients attracting candidates. But for us as well, it acts as a branding tool, as to be able to showcase how we go about things, which we genuinely believe is a different approach to most.
Do you do that for every client?
Yeah, so we have our package, and we call it our partnership model. So we will take a brief, we will and that brief is often us really digging into the company, why someone would join. We then have our internal marketer that will take we will work with them to create that piece of content. Often the clients will provide us the images or videos of that they will often have on file, and we will turn that around usually within 24 to 48 hours for them to approve. And then once we get that approval, we will then go live to market videos. I mean, the algorithm on LinkedIn is obviously getting harder, but at one point we were getting 30, 40,000 views on a video. And my conversation I have with business owners is, this is not just only going to allow you to attract great candidates. This is an incredibly useful PR tool, right? Businesses spend thousands of dollars in Google ads and keywords, but we are giving them free PR across LinkedIn about their brand and about what they're doing. So for a lot of business owners, that's a bit of a no-brainer that's part of the service that's included with us.
That's really interesting. When did you first think of this idea to attract candidates?
Look, I think one of the things we've always been looking at is like, how are we different? And again, like, it's such an overused phrase, but we've looked at retrained. There's all, like, ultimately we're looking at the process of being a partner to these businesses, and by doing the video, that's a part of it, but it's not just the video. The video is the tool that we use to attract candidates, not on job boards, but it's actually the quality of the process that we follow. You know, we will set an update meeting the week after, for a week after we take the brief. In that week, we'll go through every single candidate we've approached about the role. We'll provide them a really under the bonnet view of what we've been doing in the previous week. And we will often say that within 2 weeks of us going to market, we're going to have a really quality shortlist to you. And it's just that whole experience. And what we've found is some are obviously a bit reluctant. There is obviously a deposit involved, etc. But once you demonstrate and they've experienced that process, it's kind of almost impossible for them to ever want to go back to a different way of working. So it's, you know, it took a bit of, you know, confidence, but then once you believe in something to the level that we do internally, it's a very straightforward conversation with clients. You know, we are going to be a partner to your business. We're going to promote you. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And by the way, we're going to get you the best in market. And this is the process we're going to follow.
Yeah, wow. So has that ever, like, just to be the contrarian right now, has that ever gone the wrong way for you, where it's created an issue with your client because, I don't know, maybe they didn't like the content, now they're asking you to do this and then do that, and it's creating more work and issues? Or
look, I mean, I think each client has its own challenges. I mean, certain clients want certain videos to look a certain way, and that's all part and parcel of it. I think the only real area that we've had sort of not challenges but it's more just around educating clients that we are going to go to market with your brand and we're going to take control of the whole process, right? And so, you know, and again, that's just an education piece because clients will often want to still do it themselves. And the conversation I have with them is, we want to make this as streamlined as possible. And if we're both doing the same thing, it's going to get messy. So just let us run with the whole process. And again, most clients, they're not really worried about, they just want the best outcome. And if you can demonstrate that as an outcome to them, then they're going to be happy with it. So again, I guess one of the things I say to the team is you can make placements, but with the process that we run, we genuinely get clients that stick with us for a long time because it is so different, right? And it's not something that like is easy to replicate, right? We have a really talented marketer, Ven, who she's creating these videos, right? I know that that's not an option for a lot of recruitment businesses, so we've got to lean in on what we feel like is our genuine USP, and you know, and it's working really well.
Yeah, I love that.
Sorry, I was going to ask, do you replay back to your clients where the candidates come from? So when you shortlist, you say this did come through the content?
Yeah, so when we present to them, we will literally give them a breakdown of how many views the videos had. You know, we'll provide them the analytics. We'll talk them through. So in the long list, we'll have, you know, it's a spreadsheet that will say this candidate came through X. This is there. This has been a combination of direct outreach, etc. Right. So it's the very much that transparent way of working, right? Which who doesn't like knowing what's going on, right? And I think that recruitment, you know, I think businesses need to do better at telling what goes on behind the scenes, right? If I was a client, I'd never worked in recruitment, I would just think that they've just been charged 30 grand for a CV that's come in their inbox, right? But if they're not told otherwise, you know, so that's kind of the explainer part. And with the videos that we've now done, we've got like beautiful pitch decks. I think I said yesterday, testimonials, et cetera, right? And you know, that's our tool to get in with new clients.
Okay, and just lastly on this branding piece before I'll hand it over to Ed, if a recruiter is running their agency right now, and I'm not saying you want to share your secret sauce or anything, but if they want to mature or elevate themselves in the way that they attract candidates and create this kind of branding partnership with their clients, what's like the easy low-lying fruit that they could start thinking about to go, okay, maybe just try this to start with and see how you go?
I think most businesses make the mistake of putting everyone into one bucket, and you know, I've worked in businesses where it's like, you know, here's the content, everyone share this content, and it just has absolutely zero cut through, right? Because it just looks shared. It looks like there's no thought that's gone into it. So I think the first thing that businesses should be looking at is giving their consultants like autonomy to create the content that sits and resonates with them. Okay, like that's the first thing that you need to be doing is actually encouraging them to find their voice, to experiment, to actually get to understand what their tone of voice is, right? And I guess like, but also factor that into the KPIs, because again, I'm not to say that KPIs don't exist, but if you're going to be a recruiter successful in almost 2026, you've got to be looking at what are the KPIs that are always going to stay consistent. But I think few businesses are looking at KPIs from like things like content. Like those are the things where I say to the team all the time, your content is your BD, it's your candidate attraction, it is absolutely every part of your success. So if we're not measuring that, and we do, like it's kind of like it's so you've got to, I guess you've got to measure what you seem as like impactful.
Well, what's that measurement? So is it like 4 pieces of content a week? Is it 20 likes a week? Is it like what is it specifically?
I mean, we've dabbled with so there's platforms like Shield, for example, where it gives you a really neat dashboard, and it will show you things like how many new contacts you're getting, how successful has your content performed, what job titles are looking at your content, and so that is a really useful tool to track success of content. But I think that's a very good point about like tracking likes, because I think also sometimes the mistake is like content is too skewed towards candidates, for example, right? Now, the content that is going to open doors from a new business perspective is probably not going to get as much engagement as content that's presenting candidates. The simple maths is most people are candidates, fewer actual business owners, right? So you've got to find that balance between connecting with candidates and clients, but also be aware that certain content is going to, from an engagement perspective, be far bigger than others. So you've got to look at things not just on an engagement.
I like that.
Nice. So you've got quite a unique approach to attracting candidates. When it comes to direct outreach or proactively going after candidates, do you have anything that you and your business does specific to that? Any kind of personalized way of approaching candidates that you think would be interested in a role?
Look, I think this applies to both new business and candidates and things, is a lot of it comes inbound. And I think that is incredibly powerful, particularly from working with a new client, right? If they reach out, I saw something you did on LinkedIn, right? That instantly is your validation of, okay, well, this is the process that's going to follow, right? Who is going to reach out and go, I saw you did this great thing on LinkedIn, but I'd actually prefer if you just did the traditional recruitment process of, so that's kind of so what we put out there leads to inbound, right? I mean, I do occasionally do outbound. Like I will reach out to candidates. Am I doing anything particularly like pioneering? No, like I'm genuinely not. And it's not that I don't see the value in having like individually customized messages, but I'm also very economic with my time. Yeah. So I would rather, instead of focusing my time on individual outreach, I would create a webinar, I would create an event, I'd create something that will get them in the funnel. Which could be, and I think to date I've done close to 50 webinars this year. We run in-person events. I've run a executive marketing meetup. So it's all from a place of be as useful and as valuable as possible, and they'll come to you. Okay. So that's my tactic with it.
Have you done proactive outreaches to try and get them into the funnel? So direct message, but say, hey, we're running a webinar. Would you be interested in like that?
Absolutely. So I guess what I try and position to the team is like, because business development for a lot of people like scares them, right? The concept of it. So I think right, well, you've got to try and start with that as a mindset shift, because if you're asking people new to recruitment to develop business, what does that even mean to someone who's like new to the industry, right? But instead, if you say to them, like, I want you to reach out to 50 people this week and say to them, hey, we're running a webinar that I thought might be interesting to you. Like, would you be interested in coming, right? It's such an easier thing for them to get their head around, and a more enjoyable process, right? So instead of having BD in your calendar, be useful, right? Or be valuable, right? Because people like to be useful, right? It's a human trait, right? So if you're encouraging your team to be useful in that hour versus develop business, like it just helps and gets people interested in doing that activity. So I think you just got to be thinking about how things are positioned, how they're perceived at a junior level, because I've said this many times. My first year in recruitment, I was terrible. Like, I was genuinely, like, I was just, what is this game? Like, it's so hard to get your head around all the different moving parts. So if your manager says to you, like, 2 hours of BD, I just think it's completely pointless. Like, it's counterproductive. Like, you end up fearing it. The person who gets the call is probably going, well, that was average.
What if, with a click of a finger, you could start your own recruitment agency? Well, now you can. With XRecruiter, launching your own agency has never been easier. In less than 3 weeks, you could be taking home 85% more of your billings with everything handled for you. You recruit, we take care of the rest. Click the link in the description to see if you are ready to take that next step.
It's a very interesting thing you say, because we were talking about this over breakfast, and Blake was saying his approach back in the day when he's on the tools was just BD. And I said I used to focus very heavily on candidates and senior candidates and generating business and interest that way. How do you go about doing BD via candidates? Is that an approach you take?
I think just on that point, though, but I think something that particularly business owners need to realize is that the world has changed in 10 years, right? Like, the fundamental, people aren't answering the phone anymore, right? So if we're asking people to do what we did in a different era, that's not going to be effective, right? Like, and I don't like. Again, I'm not saying that these techniques don't work, but like the whole ambulance chasing, floating, all like I think it can work, right? But it's not something that I enjoy doing. It's just not, and it's probably just where I've got to in recruitment is I'd much rather focus on putting usefulness out there that a client wants to then sit down, give a proper brief, we take a deposit, we run a proper search, and there's the satisfaction, right? You know, it's not to say we don't still make placements from X, Y, Z and all of that stuff, but it's not the business that I want. And I want, for people that start in our business, they only work on retained roles. They only do that, right? I'm happy to pick up the scraps or pick up the but that's me, right? Whereas I want people that come into this business to actually experience retained recruitment from day one. And because if you only experience that at the start of your journey, you get it, right? You understand it straight away. It's like bang, it's like you've developed that habit that they can understand the benefits of it. So that's my philosophy on it, right? And it's not to say that there's not businesses out there making a hell of a lot of money from floats and all of that stuff. Like, I get it. It's not my business though. It's not what I want.
Okay. So final question for me on kind of outreaching direct to candidates, because, we've come from the same world, which is the percentages might be slightly off, but 90% of candidates are passive, 10% are active. And if you're only relying on ones coming to you, you're only attracting 10% of the market. So there is that whole world of passive. So are you saying that your approach is to just over time convert those passive candidates to being active just by demonstrating value in the market? Or do you have any other approach to get those people?
I guess, I think that you've kind of got to, like, there's a point in time, like if you're reaching out to someone, they might not have made that decision to move yet, right? And again, I'm not saying that's not effective. Like obviously headhunting, and that's definitely there, right? But I would rather get someone through 5 webinars that they've found useful. I'd rather have all of this stuff. Most people, are seeing what I'm putting out there in content, and what we're creating is just a period of trust developing over time, so that moment where they go, right, I'm ready to make a move, I will come to Creative Natives, right? And I think that process will probably prevent a lot of fallouts, dropouts, and stuff like that, because people are confusing, right? They don't know what they want, right? And sometimes you have to let them come to you to be at that point where they are, and they've built that trust. And the conversation I have with candidates is all the time like, we're going to do this slow, right? I said, if you're just wanting to do this straight away, I'm probably not the recruiter for you. Okay. It may take us 6 months, but I'm going to wait until the right opportunity comes up before presenting it to you. So it's a slower process. And I think that just helps just make sure it's done the right way.
That's really interesting around the speed that you reference, because the next point that we want to talk about is speed in either getting back to the candidates, getting them to a role, and the whole managing the process and the speed around those conversions and milestones. So, walk us through that. Like, someone comes inbound on a webinar, you get their name, their email, their number. Do you call them? Do you put them in an email funnel sequence? Like, what do you do specifically once someone comes inbound?
Yeah, so they're very much into our marketing funnel. So they will, we have a couple of newsletters that go out a month. The good stuff, which is our monthly email. I've been told a lot it's a decent newsletter for a recruitment business. It doesn't really talk much about recruitment. It's just, again, it's either webinars, events. It's just like what I would think would be quite useful to get, right? And we have an incredibly high open rate, and because it's been curated, and we haven't gone down this route of, like, I guess my partner's an email marketer, and she's very like of the opinion, and it's good, is like, don't try and spam your way to success, right? Because it's a quick way to turn people off, right? And so it's just grown slowly over the years, that email list, right?
What are you saying it specifically?
It's got information that we think our clients are going to find super useful.
Oh, it's clients.
Well, it goes out to clients and candidates. Okay. So it's not it doesn't feel like a recruitment newsletter. Okay. It's got really interesting like stories, interviews with business owners, and it's had some really good feedback, and that's where we spend a lot of time and effort into creating that, right? So that's something that we're very mindful of, is once people go in the funnel, what is their first experience with us through a comms situation? And then we segment it into, like, we have different emails that people can subscribe to. So there's like part-time jobs, freelance jobs, thingies, right? So people opt in for those, and then we go out, like, then they get notified of those jobs there, right? So we want to make sure that each person, and look, we're not perfect, we're a small team, but we want to make sure that the comms feels like consistent with our brand as well. We're not just pushing stuff down their throat. Oh, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. So it's a slower burn when it comes to that.
Okay, so you have different channels, freelance, part-time, full-time. Do you use like tech or software or something on the back end to be able to put them in different buckets and send them relevant information to their kind of segment? Do you, or how does that work in practice?
We use ActiveCampaign, which has the database organized into different profiles, I suppose. So yes, that is definitely something that happens. We have other channels we use. We use Slack, which we've created for our clients. We've used we've created Slack channels for candidates. So there's, like, I think one thing we're trying to do more of is focusing on that community aspect, right? So for example, I have a Slack channel which is made up, I think, of nearly 500 of my clients all on one channel, right?
Really?
Yeah. And so for them, that is an opportunity for like creative agency owners to converse with each other, to ask about like what's working, what's not working, what technology are they using, what software. So it's creating a platform for that to happen, and then we then take that platform and then run in-person events where they get to meet up once or twice a year.
What's the outcome of that? Like, what do you see some wins are of that community? 500 people in a Slack room. Are they doing business together? Are they becoming friends? Like, what's happening in there?
Absolutely. So there's a channel within that called New Business. So so the agency owners would say, hey, I've had something that probably sits slightly outside of my remit. Would anyone be up for this? So there's, so like, again, going back to that value piece, you've got to try and create an environment where it feels like there's a real benefit to being in there, and that will then transcend to the in-person events. Okay, like that's for me, going back to the being economical with my time. If I can have all of my clients in one room once or twice a year, it's an incredibly useful way of adding value, and with limited time.
And so, do you have what's your general timeline between when someone comes inbound when you're recruiting a job to when you place them? Do you have like a metric of success for you? I know you said this could take 6 months if a candidate's like desperate to get into a new role, but like, what do you find your kind of average is?
I guess, without being vague, it obviously depends on the skill set, demand, all of that stuff. So, we have a talent showcase that goes out every 2 weeks, right? And that's 12 of our best candidates that we've met in the last 2 weeks that go into that talent showcase, right? So that would be more suitable to perhaps talent that are, available immediately, and we want to proactively work with them. So we'll say to candidates, hey, look, we're not just going to wait for a brief to come in. We're actually going to take you to market and proactively showcase you. So that's one aspect of it, right? So if the candidate is available straight away, that will be something that we will include them in, and that's our way of proactively taking them to market. And that goes out to our entire client database on that. Okay. And another thing, so I will often post about candidates on LinkedIn, right? Versus jobs. Like, I don't see necessarily the value in jobs. I'd rather, again, it depends on where the market's at the moment, but I will often do a post once a week. Hey, here are 3 of my best candidates at the moment. I might do a call to action, half price if an interview's booked by the end of today. So it's there, so I don't, it's just having a bit of fun with it, right? It's not like, and I think it's not about diluting your brand by offering discount, but it's also just being aware that, like, sometimes you have to navigate markets differently to others, right? Sometimes when the market's a bit tough, you want to get someone a new job, but also create a bit of equity in your market if you're doing a few discounts here and there.
Yeah, I think you're approaching it really differently.
Has that worked? The discount thing, if you do
all the time,
really,
all the time,
love it.
Like it's again, but those posts get no engagement.
Yeah, no one wants to be seen to be liking.
No, but like I'll literally get a message straight away and go, that person looks interesting. Can I do it? And I'm like, fine, half price. Like it's fine. I'm sat with 3 great candidates, and if I can place 2 out of them by doing a LinkedIn post, which takes me a minute, it's a good ROI, isn't it? Right? So it's there's different ways of looking at it. We might even do like, I'll donate some money to a charity or something like that, right? It's so, but I think recruitment, it's just this constant cycle of, like who holds the power, and I think that ultimately is what I think I've come to a realization that the ghosting happens when whoever's got the power. When clients have got the power, they don't come back to your feedback. When candidates are in demand, they do whatever, right? So it's not anyone, no one's bad people. They just abuse the power they have at the time. We saw it in COVID when salaries went through the roof and candidates were acting ahead of themselves. But it's all it just goes in circles, right? And I think that's going back to the importance of being impartial to both clients and candidates, and having you wanting the best outcome for both, right? So, I mean, that should, I think, hold time.
Even talking to you now, I'm just thinking about what the experience is like for a candidate. It seems very different to a traditional recruitment agency and how, as a candidate, I would experience creative natives. How do you define an excellent candidate experience?
I think you can always strive for the best possible, but I think you also have to be comfortable with the reality that you can't please everyone. And I think that's something that I think anyone in recruitment has to kind of get their head around quite quickly, is you're not going to please everyone. I think you can, do as good as possible at all times, but know that there's probably people that have a less of a great experience with you, right? So I think if you don't have that mindset, you can end up just like, running yourself into the ground, and so you've got to be okay with that. But I think the candidate experience, I'd like to think is one that is genuinely listening to what they want, genuinely like going, okay, right, like taking in their needs. And this is, again, basic recruitment, but I think that with the development of technology and post-COVID, those conversations are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And people aren't actually finding out what they need to in those conversations. And it's one of the things I speak to the team about all the time is you've got to dig deeper with them. If you just take one word answers, then you're not actually getting to know them. So I'd like to think that people that when they work with us feel listened to, feel like their needs are trying to be met, and ultimately they're kept up to date with what's going on. That incredible, powerful tool, which I say to the team, do it every Friday between 10 and 11, like whatever, but have that hour of just text, call, email, everyone who's involved in something you have in the last, and just say, hey, I don't have an update, but I'm thinking of you. That's the best BD tool you'll ever have. Because I can guarantee you, particularly with senior candidates, if you treat your candidates, senior candidates, that is the best BD tool. Because you calling them on a Friday when they're probably feeling a bit low and they're about to go and speak to their friends at the weekend, that call could be the most powerful tool that you have. Hey, I don't have an update for you, but I'm ringing you to let you know. I know looking for work's hard, but I haven't forgotten you, right? When they get a job, they will remember that.
I used to think like that all the time, because it is what you just mentioned, that shift in power, because you kind of have the power when they need you, and then suddenly they become a client and you need them. And if you have that balance in power, it works.
100%. And look, it's just treat people like how you'd want to be treated, right? And again, I'm not sat here going, every candidate has a perfect experience with me, but I try, right? I try to do the right thing. And I think that if you're trying to give a junior advice, is just try and do the right thing as much as possible. Know that things will go wrong, but if you try to have the best intentions, it will work out.
How I'm pivoting slightly, but I want to talk about preparing candidates for interviews. How do you go about helping your candidates prepare for interviews in the most effective way, whether they are incredible at interviews or haven't showcased themselves particularly well with you, but they could do very well in the role? Have you got an approach or a way you do it?
I like to send them a calendar invite for 24 hours, 48 hours before their interview. And I will, I think that your role in a brief, when you're taking a brief, is extracting as much information, not just about the job, but about the interview process as possible, right? So I will ask a client, so we've got this interview, what are you trying to get out of that first interview, right? You're almost trying to get a sneak peek of what that interview is going to be, right? So I think a good brief should, yes, be qualifying the job, but it should also be getting as much information that you can take to that candidate as possible, right? You get that information, you give the candidate what you think there's going to be there. And I think then you say to them, I'm going to give you a call in 2 days' time, and we're going to go through these, and I'm going to give you honest feedback, and we're going to then use that as a way of getting you better for this interview, right? I have an incredibly high success rate of interview to placements because I think too many, we play this funny game of trying to get jobs on, trying to get all this right. But I actually think it's not about getting all the jobs on. It's just about maximizing the ones that you have got. and giving those candidates as good an opportunity to get that job as possible, right? I say to candidates every time, regardless of job, send a follow-up email to your clients the second, or have it pre-done. This is what, and I literally say to them, this is what you're going to say in this email afterwards. You're going to say, this is what excites me about the role. This is what they're going to, and literally get them to do that. I don't care if they had the worst interview ever. I would like to think that most candidates that I put forward for roles send a follow-up email. Because it just has a massive impact.
It really does. I've been a hiring manager not getting an email because I was from recruitment thinking, nope, they don't care enough about this job. It's bizarre.
Yeah. So but you know, I think you've got to also know that people don't like this. This may feel natural to us, but for a lot of people, they don't think about it like this. They don't think about it, right? So you've kind of almost got to instill values to them as a candidate to the clients that you're working with. And I would honestly say that even if they mess up the interview big time, the client's probably not going to be that bothered if they get a good follow-up email, right? Because they will at least go, well, you know what, they are a good person. They might not be right for this role, but again, those interactions they have with your candidates will reflect on your brand.
So why do you think you've got a really, what is your interview to placement ratio?
You are talking to a guy who's not very good at looking at stats and stuff like that. But
that's the creative element of you, isn't it?
Most of them.
So admin, analytics, like that's not my thing, right? But it would be very rare that I would have a shortlist that someone didn't get the job. Very, very rare. Like I would probably beat myself up if I didn't fill a role and I had a shortlist. I wouldn't feel good.
I've got a question, and it's slightly off, but if you had 4 candidates going for an interview on the same day, everyone used to talk about this when I was in recruitment, where you put your best candidates. Have you got a theory on that?
Yeah.
What's yours?
Yeah, so I always firstly, I'm very mindful of the day in which the interviews happen, right? Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be doing Mondays, right? So I think the sweet spot is your third and best candidate goes in Friday morning. Right. And so I'll always put my best, well, I say best, but the one I think is most suitable for the position. And I'll probably put my outsider in first. And I'll use the outsider to try and get as much information about that as possible.
Like a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, well, I mean...
We used to call it the filler.
I always put my most engaging one in there first. The one who gets them all in a good mood. Yeah. My best one second. You know, that's how I'd go for it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think there is definitely merit in it. I like... But I try not to fill with people.
Yeah, I know. I was just a curiosity thing.
No, I'd just be like, look, I'm going to put you 2 people forward, or I'll put 3 people forward. Yeah. So
why do you think you've got a good interview to placement ratio? Is it because you're exceptional at prepping the candidates, finding the candidates, prepping the client? Like, what is it specifically that you're always pretty confident that when I deliver this shortlist, someone will get the job? And actually, before you answer that, do you send all candidates at the same time, or do you send them as they come through?
So they will be presented as part of our process. We will give a detailed presentation on the search. Okay. Within that presentation, I have all the profiles. It will have their strengths, weaknesses, areas to probe. It will have a real detailed analysis of them, so they'll get a full breakdown of that for the candidate. So, and that's something that we've moved, and obviously this is only when we work in partnership, which is 85% of our work now when we do it. But I want to avoid just sending CVs. I want to present, because if I can present, I can talk and sell the candidate in. If I'm just sending a CV, that's not great. So I will always try and present versus send CVs.
Just to be clear, you've found 3 people that you want to send. Don't send them yet. You jump on a video call with the client and say, I'm ready to present you the 3 people I've found. When can we catch up? Exactly. What if they just say, oh, just send them across, mate?
When we're on the briefing call initially, I will say to them, hey, I'd like to have an update meeting with you in a week. Okay, at a very minimum, you're gonna be able to see what I've been doing behind the scenes, who I've spoken to, and I'll also be able to present to you anyone who I think is suitable. Okay, can I grab your time in your diary now? literally will leave that call with that second call teed up.
Gotcha.
And it also prevents time wasting, right? If you get off a meeting and then it's like you're back and forth and things, like just book it on there, right? You're on the call, or you're in person with them. Hey, what are you doing next Wednesday? Can I take some time of your diary now? And we're going to give you an update. And in that email, it will be progress report of X role we're working on. And on that role, we'll provide them ahead of the meeting a full breakdown of the long list, who we've spoken to, all of that stuff that's happened, and we will then be able to talk through the candidates on the call. And
what if you don't have an update for them? What if you're slammed and you haven't worked on their role? Do you ever get a little bit like...
Well, that's the point where we say no to work, because we know that there's a certain amount of roles that we can take on as a business. So there's no world where that would happen, because we wouldn't have taken a deposit with the client, produced a video if we don't have capacity to work on it. So we have regularly throughout this year, we've got a sign, like an art that we will put on LinkedIn. We are at capacity. We will not take any more work on, right? Done it probably 10 times in the last 12 months.
It's very counterintuitive.
No, I like it,
about
though.
not taking any more clients.
Add yourself to the wait list.
yeah.
There's a few reasons behind that, right? There is always enough is enough, right? And so if you're actually saying, no, I've got 5 retained roles on at the moment, we've got 3 of us delivering this, we are okay with that. Like, that's that again, it goes back to that enjoyment part of recruitment. If you're invested in it and working with really great brands, and we've worked with some really cool brands recently where it's like, you're kind of getting the pick of the bunch because it's a good brand, there's great salary, so it's just an enjoyable process. Yeah. And you can see in the team, they're excited, right? We just worked with the Tony and Ryan podcast, right? And we just helped them with their head of social, right? This show has millions of viewers, right? And they would well, I'm probably speaking from their behalf, but they were probably blown away with the level. We created this video for them within 48 hours, went out to market with it, found the best social people in Australia because we got people excited about the role and presented back to them, right? And we've just filled it, right? So we only have a certain amount of capacity that we'll take on. And I think it's something that does weird people out, right? It's such an thing to do, but it also it doesn't have any impact on demand. In fact, if it's the opposite.
Yeah, I would think like that. It's almost represents the market. We're doing so well. We know this is it for now, but we'll let you know when we can work with you. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So, okay. What about, and this is going to be the final segment until we move on to our game. Are you smarter than Ed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which everyone is, by the way.
Talk to me about creating urgency and trying to trial close a candidate, all this kind of stuff, because it's all well and good to give them a pleasant experience, but what about the people that stuff you around? How do you go about controlling the candidate through the process to make sure that the outcome is what you want by the end?
I mean, recruitment's fun. You can have all the theory in the world, but people will always change their minds, right? But I think that the classic, recruitment training, you get told, ask them every call, has anything changed since we last spoke, right? I'm sure we've all had that as part of our training. I think it's over communicate with them, right? But I don't know, the best recruiters I've ever worked with, it just they're just always on the phone, right? And I think it's something that is definitely a generational shift where that phone conversation is becoming less and less, and it's becoming so. I think that candidates are losing that rapport with people, right? And I think people are so much more open to screwing over their recruiter if they've never met them or had a decent conversation with them. So I think you get out what you put in this game. And I think that the times where things have fallen over, if I'm being honest, that they're probably sort of deserved. You've skipped over things a bit too quick. You've made assumptions. But we're human beings, aren't we? Like, it's well and good having these theories of you should do this, but you've also got to do a million other things that are going on. Plus, you've got kids. Plus, you've got, so there's always going to be times where it happens. But that's kind of what makes this job what it is.
You're essentially saying that maybe there's no, phrase to use, what's changed since our last discussion. More it's around digging deeper, meeting them, taking the time with them, and then is essentially how you create the control and urgency in relationship, rather than just crunching them with qualifying questions at every stage.
Exactly. Like, I mean, I think an interview shouldn't feel like an interview. It should like it, and I think that like a good interview is a combination of therapy. It's a combination of like speaking to a friend. It's having it's blending all of those things, right? And I'm definitely not saying like your whole point of the conversation is just to have banter with them, right? Because I think there's also people make the mistake of that, of like, yeah, we got on really great. Well, great. They thought you were funny, but they will screw you over, right? Because you haven't built that credibility. So it's factoring all of those things to go. They trust you, they buy into you, and they. And I think that's the part that you've got to focus on is, do they buy into you? Do they see you as a credible recruiter? Do they like you? And, do you have the information you need to represent them?
Love that. So Ryan, what's the one thing that if recruiters could take away only one thing from this podcast, what should it be?
Create content. I feel like a one-trick pony with it, but like I think the opportunity is so unbelievable if it's done properly, right? And if you can create a habit of creating content, which essentially will allow thousands and thousands of potential clients and candidates to see what you're doing daily, like it's a no-brainer. Like if this was available 25 years ago, it would have been like, whoa. But we've become accustomed to this being there. But I think, and like honestly, I don't know how long it will be available. Like I'm sure LinkedIn are not going, oh yeah, that organic reach is really helping our share price, but you've got to lean into it, right? So, for me, it's been the biggest game changer for us. It's turned the conversations from outbound to inbound. It's led to a higher quality of everything, and like it, yeah. So that for me would be, and it's the thing that people start with us day one, and we go, this is why you do content. And if you come to me and say, I haven't got any ideas, I'm going to sit with you for an hour and we're going to come up with ideas and I'll help you. All right. And yeah, not everyone's fully on board at the start, but the moment when the penny drops is, I saw something you wrote. I'd love,
There you go, guys. So if you're struggling with content, catch up with Ryan. He'll sit with you for an hour and he'll help you come up with some ideas.
Let's go join a webinar. Join a webinar.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Okay, awesome. So let's move into Are You Smarter Than Ed? Cue Who Wants to Be a Millionaire music. What year was LinkedIn founded?
Ed. 2004. Damn, I worked there.
A, 2002, B, 2003, C, 2004, D, 2005.
2002.
Bingo!
Damn. Well played.
Ryan! How did you, is that a lucky guess?
No, yeah.
Forgot about the multiple choice for a second.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
What is the average number of interviews before a job offer? A, 1 to 2. B, 2 to 3.
Ed.
C,
2 to 3.
correct.
That was playing the averages there.
Yeah. What major tech company acquired LinkedIn in
Ed.
20s? That was Ed.
Microsoft.
Correct.
Oh, come on. 2 LinkedIn questions.
Okay, so it's 2-1 at the moment. 2 to Ed, 1 to Ryan. This could be the win for Ed. Which country has the shortest average hiring time? A, USA. B, Germany. C, India. D, Australia.
Ed, right. Oh, sorry. I feel like Germans are the most efficient, so I'm going to say Germany.
Oh, India.
Ba-boom.
Ed, USA.
Right, Australia.
Oh, you can't do that.
You got to give it to him.
Okay, all right, fair enough. All right, it's 2-2. This is to win the game. What country is Adecco originally from? Ryan.
Ed. UK.
Netherlands.
You've already said Netherlands, so that's a bubble. But now I'm going to continue with the multiple choice, and you can both buzz in, okay? A, France. B, Switzerland. C, Germany. D, USA.
Ryan. Switzerland.
Boom! Ryan is
well
officially
played, mate.
smarter
Well
than
played.
Ed. Well, Ryan, I appreciate you coming on Confessions of a Recruiter.
Thanks for having me.
It was fun talking. It was fun learning about you. It was fun learning about native creatives.
Creative natives.
Sorry, creative natives. I'm a little bit dyslexic. How can someone reach out to you if they want to have a chat?
LinkedIn. Yeah,
44,000 followers I saw.
Who's counting, hey?
You're LinkedIn famous, mate.
Well, he knows when they were founded. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much.
No, thanks, gents. It's been fun.
Even though you're sick, you did a great job.
Yeah.
Happy days. Thank
Loved
you.
it.
Thanks, mate.